Hey guys, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today, beginning brand new week, and we're excited to start a new set of reflections. And today we have a new book. We concluded the part three of three last Thursday, and today we have a new book. And I guess it's a single reflection.
Yeah, single one.
And
Yeah.
so, the
It
reflection
was good.
to 283.
It
Take
was
it
good.
away.
It's a book called the Yearbook by Seth Rogen. Do you know who Seth Rogen is?
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. So it's book's hilarious actually. So starters, this is the best book description by like take a second to read this. Like it says, all right, hi, I'm Seth. I was asked to describe my book Yearbook for the Inside Flap, which is a gross phrase for the websites and shit like that. So here it goes. Yearbook is
Mm-hmm.
a collection of true stories that I desperately hope are funny at worst and life changing and amazingly at best. I understand it's likely the former, which is a fancy book word for saying the first one. I talk about grandparents doing stand up comedy as a teenager, bar mitzvahs, Jewish summer camp, and tell way too many stories about my drug use. And my mom would way too many stories about doing drugs that my mom would like. I also talk about my adventures in LA and surely some of the other famous people that'll create a wild, awkward conversation for me at a party one day. I hope you enjoy the book, and should you buy it, and if you don't enjoy it, I'm sorry. If you ever see me on the street, I'll explain the situation. I'll try to do I'll do my best to keep trying to make it up to you. Like I mean, like that is like the funniest book description I've ever heard ever. And it's after reading this book, it makes a lot of sense because it's very
Right.
much so on brand with this guy's like mo. But if you don't know who Seth Rogen is, he's a comedian. He was in things like 40-Year-Old Virgin. He was in Knocked Up. He was in Freaks and Geeks back in the day. He was
Mm-hmm.
in he's been in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you don't know him, like figure it out. So he's a pretty famous comedy writer, friends with like James Franco and
Mm-hmm.
that whole crew of cast of characters in Hollywood. So
Misfits.
Misfits, yeah, exactly. So this book actually came about because we had finished my wife and I. This is a book my wife and I read together.
Mm-hmm.
We had just finished Trevor Noah's Born a Crime like a couple weeks before this,
Mm-hmm.
and we did that one together, and she was like, "Man, that was really good." She was like, "Find me more books like that," and I was like, "Okay, like
You want comedy? You
you
got
got
comedy.
it." Right, right. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't just snap my finger and find a magical book that you're gonna love, but I was like, hey,
But you
I'll
didn't
do I'll do
disappoint.
I'll do my best, right? Yeah. So the next day I the Ozan Varol, the guy that
Mm-hmm.
wrote Think Like a Rocket
That's the thing, like what's that?
Scientist, yeah.
Right.
I subscribe to his blog weekly newsletter that he sends out, and
How many blogs do you read?
just two.
Oh,
I have
yeah, because I know you hooked into what's that guy's name from
James
Entrepreneur
Clear.
Roller Coaster?
Oh, Darren Hardy. That's not a
Darren
blog.
Hardy.
That's like a morning mentor video. So I watch that, and then that's daily. And then on Thursdays, I'm subscribed to James Clear's blog or newsletter. Who the guy that wrote Atomic Habits
Mm-hmm.
and then Ozone Barrels. Um, uh, and I like it. I like it. I like his newsletter's great. And it just so happened to be the next day after my wife had asked me this question that I got this, and he every once in a while does like the best of what I'm reading, watching, and learning kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
this happened to be a suggestion, and I was like, oh, perfect, maybe this is the book. So went and checked it out. You know, thought it was sounded funny. I was like, hey, let's try this. So my wife and I ended up making this our next book, and it was actually hilarious. I mean, it was really really funny. I would highly recommend it if you like comedy, and I think one of the things that stood out to me the most just on about Seth Rogen in general that I didn't know. I had no idea he was a writer. I just thought he was like a comedic, dude, that was like just in these like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a comedian, like I don't know Martin Short. I don't know if Martin Short's a comedy writer, but like you always see him in like comedy movies or whatever. I don't know if he wrote it, but like I just always assume comedy comedians like that are in these like movies and whatever are just
Well,
acting and they're funny. Yeah.
some of them are, but somebody has to write it. I mean,
Right.
so I mean, I think you're talking about the circles that you're talking about, like James Franco and even um what was it? Kenny Jong, all those
Who?
guys.
Oh,
Kenny,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right. They do stuff together, right? And
Right,
like in a group in those circles, they have to have somebody write it, or And I think
right,
they have their own like persona. I mean, those group has some like Seth Rogen has his own persona. This is who he is, right? He's just
right.
funny, as a person. Whether or not he's in a movie or in real life, he's just funny.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
for sure.
Seth MacFarlane, right, from the
Yeah,
Family Guy, right? These guys just who they are,
they're hilarious.
and
I mean,
right,
but I didn't know that Seth Rogen was a writer. He's actually more of a writer than he is a comedian.
really,
Than he is more of like an actor and a comedian. I mean, he writes a lot. Like, I mean, he's like a he's just like he does he's written a lot of movies. Like, I mean, he's like that's kind of what he does. I'm
hmm
not saying that he's not in he's a famous actor as well, but like the writing is his kind of the first love of what brought him to stardom in the first place, and or what he kind of does every day. So this is what I was kind of most shocked by to learn about his life. I had no idea. I had no idea. I was really impressed by his writing and the stuff that he has written, and
hmm
and then just his own book. It was a really interesting story. So uh onto the reflection, though. The reflection of this title is right about that. Share the real you if you want to make a connection. So as Seth was telling his story, he was coming up in the comedy world, and he was like a teenager that would do comedy shows and stuff like that. And uh, when he was 16 years old, he was performing at a showcase for amateurs, and just totally bombed. Like, he was telling these corny jokes about grandmothers and bike cops and crazy glue and stuff like that, and it was like almost like corny dad jokes, stuff that you would think like a kid would say, like kind of jokes.
gotta
And
start from somewhere.
right, but he was intentionally trying to be that act, right? It wasn't that the jokes were bad. It was that they were uninspired jokes. They were just he was just trying to get the audience to laugh, but he wasn't putting himself into the show at all. So he totally
Yeah,
bombed.
it's
Like, yeah,
it's probably like awkward when you do this kind of thing. That's not who you are, right?
oh, I
So,
mean, it's
so
got it's
the thing is, I think people have the ability to detect whether or not you are
you're
tense,
you're you're
and
you're
I'm
you're,
ruining
you're,
it.
you're stealing my thunder. All right, all right. So Seth gets off stage. He totally just bombed. It was awful. And then a few weeks later, he went to another um, uh, show that he was performing at, and a fellow
Mhm.
comic that was like an older comic had seen his act, and he stopped by and he said, what the hell were you doing? Like, that was awful. Like, why are you writing about this corny ass stuff? And he goes, what do you want me to write about? And he was like, write about what 16-year-olds do. He's like, what do you do on the weekends? And Seth said, you mean like try to buy beer and sneak into strip clubs? And the comic responded, yeah, exactly. Write about that. And then he goes, and then the comic guy asked, he was like, do you have a girlfriend or something? And then Seth goes, I did, but she dumped me after 3 days. And the comedian started just cracking up, and he was like, please write about that. Like, tell us the story. So Seth for the first time, got up a little bit of courage, and he started writing about his own life, and the
Mhm.
story, and his next comic stand up, that he gave was about the girlfriend that he had for 3 days that dumped him after 3 days, and it was like really sad, funny, awful story, and it was hilarious. I mean, it was a really funny story. So
I mean,
he
some
he
people just
he
have the talent to just tell a story and to be funny regardless of how it went. I mean, it could be, hey, she likes me, or she hates me, or she dumps me in 3 days. It doesn't matter. It's funny
right,
nonetheless. And
exactly.
so
But exactly,
it's just that person's character.
but he's sharing more about his real life and about who he is, and then how he wants to share his own story to the world, right?
Mhm.
So that was the first time that Seth, after shared that, where he was like, oh, this is what real comedy feels like, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, kind of thing. And that's what he's always kind of done, strive to. This whole book is about short stories about his life, and it's about bar mitzvahs and his grandparents and being Jewish and doing a lot of drugs, like he talked about in the I mean, he kind of just goes. There's nothing off limits with him, right? It's I'm going to talk about my life, and it comes across as authentic, right, and honest. Even though some of the content may be cringeworthy, and whether you think it's funny or not funny, it's irrelevant, but it's very genuine and honest. And it was the first time that he said that in particular he used pain, that he incorporated pain into his comedy, and that was like a big turning point for himself, was like to share the things that were painful, like events for him, and to share that with other people. And for me, that resonated deeply, because that's what I do. That this is what this is about. This is I've been sharing my pain with the world through this journey with you, with and whatever else I've expressed my own self, and put that out there, and you hope to make a connection with people, right? And but here's the thing that I've always realized and understood now, and I deeply understand now, is you all know it, and I know it. When somebody's a total phony, like, and they're not sharing their real things about their life, like, you could tell. Like, I mean, they're trying to put some spin on it, or gloss it up, or they're not going deep enough, or they're not
omit some
sharing.
stuff.
What's that?
Omitting some stuff.
Or omitting some stuff. Yeah, like,
Yeah, you can tell there's a gap in
yes,
the information, right? It's certainly, hey, you go from Tuesday to Friday. What the fuck happens to Wednesday and Thursday?
right, exactly. It's as what ends up not happening is you fail to connect with people, and you don't tell your real story, and we don't share real, like the real you, right? Like, when you don't do that in this world, like, you end up telling corny jokes to try to make people laugh, whereas what they really want to see is, like, I wrote this at the bottom down here, is like, Seth learned at a young age, you might be able to make the masses chuckle by telling some corny jokes, but if you want to make a few people laugh out loud and really never forget you have to connect with them on the deeper level, right? Like, and that's, to do that, you have to share the real you. Like, and those people that hear that, like, there's certain people that are gonna love Seth Rogen's shtick, right? Like, I don't personally really, like, love his comedy necessarily. Like, it's not like I am, like, love Seth Rogen or something like that, but I appreciate him. There's somebody out there that really does love his work, and there's somebody out there that really does
Yeah,
love,
I mean, I feel the
whatever.
same way. I mean, I don't particularly love it. I like it. I mean,
Right.
to be fair, I like his movies. It's not like I'm like love and fanatic about it. But one thing that he gets from me is, like, he get my respect. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because, like I say, he is who he is. He's not pretending to be anything else, right? He's not being phony. So he gets my respect. And
Right.
I, like I said, I like his movie. I'm not like the top, movies of all time or anything like that. I wouldn't put it that way, but uh, I would watch it when it comes
For
out,
sure.
and it is entertaining. But one thing for sure, I give him my respect, because, like I say, I don't feel any phoniness from him. And, like, it's not like, oh, I'm hiding this, or I'm trying to become this person or that person or whatever. He just said, hey, this is who I am, right? And
Right.
I'm here, and
Right.
that is, that gets my respect.
Yeah, I mean, I think a dude's like Tom Cruise or something like that, like, or Will Smith, even, like, before reading his autobiography, like, those guys are so, they do everything to make sure that their image is curated and polished and comes
Mm-hmm.
across, very very whatever, I don't know, very very curated, right? Like, and then I think of guys like,
But when you created your image,
you
right?
lose your personality. You have no personality.
You distance yourself from the audience,
You
meaning
do.
that you lose the connection,
You do. Yeah.
right?
And like, what's the point of producing art if you can't make a connection? What's the point of sharing your pain if you can't make a connection with somebody? What's the point of doing any of this stuff if you can't make a connection with somebody else?
I mean,
So, like,
it's the same thing
yeah.
as painting the Van Gogh, but put it in a locker. No one sees it. No one has seen the art. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
Leonardo da Vinci. You paint the Mona Lisa, but no one's seen it. That's what you're doing, right? This is what I see you doing if you don't bring yourself out and connect. Connection is makes it complete.
Mhm.
You say, hey, I paint the best art. I
Yep.
did my best art, but it's in a vault somewhere, and no one has ever seen it. If you make $1 trillion and you can't tell anyone about it, and you can't
Right.
elude and give any clues that you have $1 trillion, that's to me that's torture. I mean, you are suppressing your creativity and
Yep.
who you are. You basically lock yourself in your own mind.
Yep. So I finished Will Smith's autobiography um like 2 months before the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
The famous slap of Chris
Slap,
Rock,
right,
right?
right.
Uh, and after I read that book and then saw that happen, it actually wasn't a surprise to me at all in any way, shape, or form. Because
Mm-hmm.
Will Smith has spent the better part of hearing his own story told by himself. He's spent almost his entire life trying to suppress who he really is to the world. And I think he's had this inner turmoil going on for a really long period of time, and until recently, specifically, he started doing like a lot of like ayahuasca and stuff like that, which isn't
Mm-hmm.
bad at all. But it opened up, I think, his mind to understand there is more out there than just this myopic focus on being, the world's best, most popular uh, movie star or whatever. Like was basically his only goal for the longest period of his entire life. I think he was going through this like split personality almost of like going like I want to show who I really am. I want to be Will that everybody can see, and this is what I heard him write about the entire book.
Yeah, but
And
he's conflicting in
yeah,
saying, this is the personality I have created, this persona that I've created, that I've used to become famous, and everybody expects me to continue on this trajectory,
right.
and
And he
that's
didn't
not
want
who
to.
I am. And then you
Right,
have that split personality, and
right.
then you go ballistic, right?
Yeah,
To, to
you
me,
you slap
to
you
me,
slap somebody on stage. Like,
and to
that's
me, that's a lot of pain,
it
in,
is.
in torture that you put yourself in. Because like I said, if you have $1 billion, $1 trillion, but you see somebody who needs your help or whatever, and you cannot help them because you're not supposed to show them that you have this personality, that kills you.
Right.
It just kills you. I mean, it's just
I'm,
one of those things where you die inside because
do you,
you're
do you,
powerless to do things, even though when you have the power to do, but you're powerless to do because of that self image that you're trying to keep.
agreed. Who do you think you know better, Tom Cruise or Seth Rogen?
Better in what
Just in
way?
general, like who do you think you have a better grasp on who they are as a human being? Tom
Seth
Cruise or
Rogen, of course. I mean,
right?
he said, "Well, I'm over the book. I'm not going to deny who I am. Once you deny who you are, then well, how do you find yourself again? You think about it. How do you find yourself again when you say, well, this person is not me. I deny without even considering it. This person is not me. I deny without the person. So you deny everything you've seen, then who you are, how do you connect back to who you really are? It's basically
I have
becoming
no
this
idea.
blur. Even for me, it's looking at it, it's become a blur. But when you look at Seth Rogen, you know exactly, it's crystal clear. I mean, whatever he has is what it is. He's
Right.
not he's not like putting any veil over you, or he putting any veil over himself either.
And we
So
actually don't
that's
care what he does. Like nobody cares what Seth Rogen does. Like they're not like judging him because they're like, oh, well, whatever. Like that's on par. That makes sense. Like that's who Seth is. Like that's the thing when you share who you really are with people. Like they don't really care.
because the thing
They
is,
just they
no
just
one
want to
give
know
a
what to
no
expect.
one
Right.
give a
Yeah.
shit about you trying to be, hey, the A plus star or whatever. It's like
Right.
they just want you to, like I said, if you are who you are, there's gonna be people who gonna like you, and there are people who are gonna love you, right? And the people who are gonna love you, they're gonna really love you because
Yeah.
you connect with them on that level. But if you pretend to be somebody, right? When you pretend to be somebody, the people who think they love you because you cannot be best at whatever, they eventually say, well, you're not giving your all, so I don't think I would like you that much. And the
Right.
people who, the people who like, I guess, get kind of like attracted to you based on your personality, but it turns out that you're not. Well, they become your enemy because they say, "Hey, this guy just fooled me." I mean,
Fake shit. Yeah. Yeah.
he's a two-timing asshole. I mean, you think
Right.
about it. That's what people
Yeah.
think. But that's the thing is, regardless of who you are, there's some people who are fitted to be in your circle, and there's some people who aren't, right? So it
Right.
doesn't matter. I say, hey, I become the superstars, right? Some superstars, you're gonna eliminate another circle. So it doesn't matter. So belong to a circle, still a circle.
Right.
But you say, hey, I belong to this circle, even though you're not. You are trying to your demise to be that thing. We talked about this lion before, right? A beaver trying to be a lion and be a wolf, whatever.
Right.
Be in the circle of the lion. Well, when you're in the circle of the lion, right? The beavers and the ducks is not gonna like you because you're in a different circle. And then when you're a beaver, the lions, the other one, not gonna like you because you're in different circles. But you still have your own circle. But
Right.
you suffer in the circles that you don't belong.
Yeah, it sucks. It's awful. Like you're suppressing, a big part of who you are, like to conform to what you think other people want. And honestly, like what other people want is just for you to be yourself. I mean, I don't care about, you know,
I
Tom
mean, that's
Cruise,
the thing is people have their own lives to live. They don't really care about what you do. Okay, they only care if you are in their circle,
right,
right? Like for me, is you and I talk, right? You and I talk, and we are inside a circle. I care about what you do, and you care about what I do. But there are like 8 billion other people that I don't care what happens because the thing is, it's not in my circle. Why would I care,
I,
right?
yeah,
And it's not like okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to look at Kim Kardashian or Khloe Kardashian or whoever, no name or whatever. Like I don't care. I have my own problem to worry about, right? I only pay attention to unless it's like within my circle. So people are the same way. They don't really care. They don't give a shit about you. Not because they don't give a shit, because they have their own shit to worry about,
right, yeah.
right?
I mean,
And so when
you're
you're trying to be
you're the
something
center
for
of your own
somebody,
universe.
to look at you, say, well, I don't really need that because I don't have the time to look at you and judge you in any way. And if it does, like it has nothing
That's
to
a
do
great
with
point.
me.
That's a great point. Like I don't have time to figure out if you're lying to me or not. I know when you are, I know when you're not, but I don't have time to like try to figure out your bullshit with you. You know what I mean? Like I don't have time to play games with people. I need you to know that this is somebody that I want to like either go toward or somebody that I want to go away from, and that's that. Like I don't want to play games with you. I don't want you
Right,
to like
because you have your own problems to worry about.
right,
You have your own life to live. I have my own problems to worry about. I have my own life to live. So when I come across somebody, I say, well, that person aligns with me. I want to connect and become friends. Okay, because it's inside my circles, and that's attracts
right,
me to the based on the core value, based on this person's characteristics. Hey, he's an honest person. I'm also an honest person. I love talking to him because there's certain things that we care about that it's the same thing. So I will reach out to you and make that connection, and you will reach me and make that connection. But you think about it, if that person has a different core values and that doesn't matter me, it doesn't benefit me. So I wouldn't pay attention. So I can't even judge you. I'm not, regardless whether you're good or bad. I don't really care
right.
because I just don't
I don't have
have the,
time.
the
I
I
don't
don't
have
have
the,
a, I don't have the time and
the
the time
energy. I don't have
span and
the
energy
energy.
to
Yeah, yeah,
even like consider and judge you. Only if
right.
you show me a characteristic of core values or whatever that aligns with me that I believe is valuable as well, I will connect to kind of. I mean, in the end of the day, it's the self-esteem. Say, hey, what can I connect with that will help me grow, will help
Mhm.
me become better. But if it doesn't align with me or it doesn't connect with me in any way, I don't think about it. I mean, so I can't say, well, that's bad or that's good. It's just not possible. And so
You can't be neutral.
if you go, you live your life based on what other people think, which is non-existence, right? Then you're only putting yourself up for misery.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah, you're hurting yourself to help other people that don't give a shit about you in the first place. Like so. I mean, it's there's a zero win scenario here. And then not only that, like the whole point of this reflection is you fail
And the
to
thing,
connect. Like
you think about
it's like don't miss the point. It goes back to Darren Hardy. It's like what are you sharing yourself with somebody else if you don't want to connect with them like genuinely, like what's the point? Like what like
yeah,
why are you doing like what do you get out of just
you like I said, at the end of the day, what are you getting from the action that you produce? Because no one's can produce this action without anything back in return. If somebody does that, they're not human because human doesn't do that.
right?
And if you say, oh well, what about the people that judge you, this and that. They are doing that in self-defense. They are at the end of the day, they're still thinking about themselves. They are saying, hey, I don't like that person because they're trying to cover for themselves. So in the end, what they're judging is themselves. They're not judging you. They're just using you as an example, right?
Hmm?
So like if I say, well, maybe I don't like Steve Jobs, or maybe I don't like Elon. It's not about Steve Jobs or Elon. It's about me, right? It is my weakness in my you know my inability to cope with some things, and I just use Elon Steve Jobs as an example of an excuse. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's still me. So whether I say something about Elon or Bill Gates, whatever, it doesn't matter. It isn't about them. It's about me, right? So
But
even if you are in that kind of a camp, right, you're trying to compensate for your own lack of whatever.
right. I think you just made up a really I think you just brought up a really interesting analogy of Elon Musk and Steve Jobs versus like Mark Zuckerberg. Like, the only thing you can never say about Steve Jobs and Elon Musk is you don't know who they are. Like they're very clear about who they are. I mean, I think, and it comes across in how they interact with people, how they live. Like I think you can get a pretty good idea of what Elon Musk is all about, or
Mm-hmm.
what Steve Jobs is all about, based
Right.
off of how they present themselves to the world, right? I don't know what is Mark Zuckerberg like, who is he really like, fuck
He's
if
an
I
enigma,
know.
man.
I right, like, I mean, like,
He didn't take a stand, right?
never, like, yeah, I mean, he's just neutral at all times,
And
and I
so,
guess
so the thing
that
is,
can't
we
that can't be
only
real.
connect with people who we know take a stand, who we know where they stand. Because if you don't take a stand, no camp would invite you to their circle. Okay,
Why would
that's the
they?
thing,
I mean,
and
yeah,
and that's human nature, right? Because the
right.
thing is, I would rather know whether you're with me or you're against me, rather than you're like, hey, I'm neutral. The neutral guy to me is the most suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, you know, why are you even in this conversation? Like, like if you're just gonna be neutral all day long, then just say I don't want to. Like, so for me, for like politically speaking, like I'm pretty neutral in almost pretty much everything. To be honest with you, I'm very I guess if I had to label myself, I'd probably be more like like a libertarian or something. If I had to label myself, which I don't even know that I would even label myself as like
I
a
don't think
libertarian.
you're neutral.
Well, no. I'm neutral in the regards of I don't really give a shit about, like, I'm not going to engage in these conversations. I'm not gonna go and battle with people about immigration or whatever. I don't care. I don't fucking care. So like if you want to talk to me about it, I'm just gonna go. I don't fucking care. Like, like I really don't. Like, you can have whatever opinion you want to have. But like if I were to sit there and try to have an opinion with them and then have an opinion with them and
Right,
try to
and
play
that's
both
that's the
sides,
definition of
then it's the
neutral.
problem, right? Then
That's
then
the
there
definition of
then
neutral.
there's the
There,
problem.
there,
Right.
there is taking sides. There's neutral, and then the other side. So the side of don't care is a side. You taking a
Yeah, yeah,
stand,
yeah. I'm
okay?
I'm out of it.
But
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you're neutral, it's like, oh, I agree with you on this side. I agree with you on this side. Okay, well, which are you gonna
What's the
take
point?
it?
Like, yeah, you
Right,
can't do
but
that. Like, what do you stand in the middle of the ring? Like,
yeah, but when you're not neutral, when you're not neutral and you're not belong to either side, you took one stand. It's like you're another party. A party
right.
say, hey, I don't give a shit about this topic,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's their stand. You actually taking a stand.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
right. But the guys in the middle, this is the neutral guy where he. That's why you don't exhibit the characteristic of one party or another. If you do, then you're neutral, right? But if
Right.
you don't care, I mean, you don't exhibit any of that. You are in a different camp. You
Yeah.
are another party on its own, in its
Right.
on, right? And so you're not neutral. So
Yes.
neutrality is one of those things where you agree and you also disagree, and you also agree, and so you kind of like in the middle.
We've had this. I had this argument with but I don't know if I told you I did I finally read Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life or whatever. Did I tell you about this?
No, I probably
I
don't recall.
I hated every minute of it. Like, I mean, I almost it was one of those books where I begged Amelia to, like, please let me stop this. Like, it was making me angry, and it was making me, like, if it reminded me of like 48 Laws of Power, and I
Hmm.
remember I had so many conversations with Felicia about this, like, book every day when I would finish reading, like, an hour or two of it or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I would just be like, I can't stand this guy. And here's why. Like, I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about. He likes to just sit back, and point and tell people, well, you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this wrong. And I'm like, what are you? Who are you? Like, I don't care. Like, the entire book was him about just basically philosophizing about people's takes and stances on life, and how that relates to like larger meta themes that have been throughout history or not or whatever. And I'm like sure, this sounds intriguing, sometimes it was interesting points that he was making, but I'm like, there's no talk. This goes back to soul in the game and skin in the game. Like, he has no skin in the game of any of his arguments. The only time that I had any inkling of I don't know, a feeling of connection with the guy was
Mm-hmm.
at the very, very end of his last rule, where he talked about his own personal life and the lesson
Mm-hmm.
that he learned from his own
Right.
personal life. And I was like, okay, I can at least this one, I can at least you're somewhat of a human. At least thank God you shared at least something. But your other 11 rules that you shared out of 12 of them were just you spouting fucking nonsense and literally just being the truth seeker or teller. I hate truth tellers. This is why you and I talk about this all the time. Philosophers are like the ultimate like neutral party.
Well,
It's like,
he is a clinical psychologist.
I mean, Jesus Christ! Like, it makes me want to like just
His
punch
job is
people.
to tell what people to do.
I know this is the problem. Is like you can't do that when you have no skin in the game. Like, you can't, like, as a clinical
But
psychologist. Like,
like I said, you can tell if a person has skin in the game and you feel the connection, right?
right?
The way you tell the
Yeah.
story, it's just different. But when he, you know, philosophize a bunch of other 11 rules, you feel there is gaps in it, right? It's like, well,
I wanted to
what?
argue with him, and I'm like, what am I? I don't want to argue with this guy about it.
There's so many there's so many holes in it. But if you have actually experienced through certain things, is the argument you make are so detailed that people
Can't
can't really
argue.
argue with it,
You can't argue
right?
with your personal experience. You really
Right?
can't.
This is
Like,
what happens to me, right?
right.
And the thing is, it's hard to poke holes because there isn't really much holes in terms of that experience. And the more
Unless
soul
you're
in the
just
game you
lying.
have, exactly,
Right.
right? That because you either recall your experience or you make it up.
Or like that, who's that one congressman, George Santos or whatever. You've heard of that guy? The
I heard of George Santos, yeah.
Okay, yeah, like you okay, like George Santos definitely shares a lot about his life, but everything that he shares is clearly false. So, like, I mean, like, don't be George Santos. If you're gonna share your life, share your real life, but to your point, you can't lie about it. Like, I mean,
You cannot fool people.
you can't argue with it. Like, I mean,
People
how can
can
you argue?
people can feel it if you fool them. I
Right.
mean, it's you when you call it sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. People can tell if you lie, right? Because I mean, I don't know if I believe it. That's the thing. You have gut feelings. I don't know if I believe it, right?
Right.
Because if you're not sure, that means you didn't make the connection. And
Do
when
you
you didn't make the
believe
connection,
do you believe that I played tennis for 29 days out of 31 days in the month of
of
July?
course, it's
Okay.
not what you
Why?
say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. Like, I'm
Right?
telling you, like, I'm so excited
It's like
about, like,
your heart and soul's in it when you can say, hey, I played this, blah blah blah, and I did this and I did that. It's like
and
no
I
one is
learned
gonna,
this, and
right? It's the
right.
how you say it,
Right.
right? And how you say it means like you did it or you didn't. If you didn't, right, you can make up some stuff. I would not feel convinced. It's not about if I think I'm convinced. It's about did I feel I'm convinced. That's a
Right.
different because feeling is not like what I hear. It's like how did I receive these nuances of the micro expression in your face, the
Right.
intonation of your voice, and how passionate you are, right? You can tell if they're really, really into it or they're just pretending.
Yeah.
No one can, I mean, any actor, you still can't pretend that well, okay? You just can't,
Yep.
right? You practice a lot, but there's still some nuances that's going to give you away. But
Yeah.
if you are passionate about what you do, people just sit there and listen to you because they want to know what happened.
Right.
This is who we are. Human nature is we
They want
want
to
to
they
know
want to
what
hear your
happened,
life.
right?
Like, they want to
So
hear about your story. Like, they want to know the stuff that matters to you. if it's genuine, you know, like I mean, like yeah, you're right. I mean, like it's
I mean,
when somebody,
you
yeah,
we can sit here and talk about tumbleweed all we want, right? But if we passionately talk about tumbleweed, people can listen. But if you talk about tumbleweed just for the sake of a talking point, no one's gonna listen. I don't care
yeah.
how eloquent you are.
Well, that's the funny thing about Jordan Peterson is like this is what I can't figure out is like why. I think this has something to do with the virality of like social media and things like that, where you can make up these little quips, these like one liners, these very smart, intelligent thoughts to
Just
throw
like
out
the just
there.
like the Twitter thing, and you say something, sound profound, and you put it out there. But there's like I say, hey, the other round down here. I copy McConaughey's bumper sticker saying, I
Right,
say the other round down here, and I post it on my LinkedIn and my Twitters and my Facebook saying, shit, this guy is it's something. He is profound,
right,
but it's not. But I'm a phony,
right.
because there is like literally thousands of words go behind that one single phrase, right? There's a fucking book behind that book, that phrase, that
Yep.
run on down here, the run for train. All this phrase we're saying there are so much
Yep.
that goes behind it, but I didn't bring it. I just took the top of that and I put them out there and claim it as my own. I'm the
Right.
fucking phony, right? So that's the thing is people sense that. People
Neut-
sense that.
Neutral people love to tell
And
like
then what
this
they
is
do is
they they love to talk
they
truth to
take it.
people.
They take that, right. They take that shell of the saying and they pass it on to somebody else as their own, right.
Right.
And that's what I call regurgitations of information. And this is what people do every day. So one of my pet peeves is like, don't talk to me unless you research your own stuff. Because
Yeah,
if
yeah,
not,
yeah.
then
I
don't
agree.
claim it. Just say, hey,
Right.
I have no idea. I just heard this. What do you guys think? Can you elaborate, explain, educate me. But I'm not gonna say, hey, the other run down here, you should not run uphill. Even though I have no idea what the backstory is, right?
Right.
Well, you have the backstory, then let's say I can talk to you and say, well, what about this gap? Then I can defend it because I know exactly what happened. I have all of the support, all of the backstory behind it to support
Right.
that saying. But if I take the saying, I didn't read the book, right? I didn't read the Greenlights. I didn't read the book and somebody put it on Twitter or on LinkedIn and they're all around down here, right? You should do that. And I take it and I say to somebody, and people say, "Hey, what do you mean
The
by
Wim
that?"
Hof method. You
Yeah,
post
people say,
yourself
what
in
would you say
the
by that? And then I say, well, it's not running up here. It's not trying to.
yeah, it makes sense to me.
It's,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
but that's all.
this is
That's
total
all I
garbage.
got.
Right,
That's all
right,
I got, right? Because
right.
based on the saying itself, the other round down here that means you shouldn't run uphill or whatever. Like, well, but that's all there is. I can't say anything more profound than just that because
Man,
there's no story behind it.
it's talk it's talk is cheap, like is really what it is. It's like is Jordan Peterson can talk all fucking day long. Like, but like doesn't nobody gives a shit. He doesn't need he may give a shit about what he's talking about, but he doesn't really give. It's like if I was back in high school or something like that. One of my friends was over and we were arguing about who is the best hip hop artist of all time. Is it Biggie or Tupac? And I asked my dad, who's the best hip hop artist of all time? And he would go like, and him being like, well, this is why Biggie is, or this is why whatever. I'd be like, you've never even fucking heard a single like you're so far removed. You listen to Led Zeppelin all day long, Dad. Like I don't even know. You don't even know who these people are. You don't. Is one of them East Coast? Is one of them West Coast? Is one of them this? Is one of them that? Who's their crews they run with? Who's all this? Like what are their songs? What are their like? My dad would have no fucking idea, but he would sit there and tell me all the things that are wrong with hip hop, and he would tell me everything that's wrong with like the culture that is what it is. I mean, my dad used to like come in when if I was watching BET and he would be like, turn this shit off. Like, and then he would just go on a rant about, why it's like total garbage and yada, yada, yada. And like, and my like, the reason why I'm sharing this is not because my dad's a jerk or something like that. It's because like my dad is Jordan Peterson, right? My dad had no skin in the game of this.
Well,
He
the thing
like
is,
my
most people are like that because
they are,
if
yeah,
if you ask me, hey, who's better, Andre Agassiz or you know whoever the other,
sure. Roger
yeah,
Federer, yeah, yeah,
rather right? Who's better, right? I'm going because I have no idea who these people are, and I know they play tennis. I'm gonna like randomly pick one, and I'm gonna try to defend whatever. It's just on the human nature to do that, right? But
Right.
that's what I'm saying is what we want to talk about today is, are you bringing your authentic self? Because the thing is, if you ask me, I say, I have no idea. I don't know who these guys are because that's authentic.
Right.
Versus I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Sure.
pretend
Yeah.
that I
Right.
know
Right.
shit. Like, hey, I don't want to seem like, hey, I'm a dull person that hasn't been out in the world for the last 5 years. I haven't watched TV. I don't know who these guys are. I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm this dumbass person, right? But
Yeah.
I'm gonna claim something I know nothing about, and I'm going to BS about something about, hey, Agassi is faster, even if I have no idea if he's faster or whatever. I have no idea, and I will pretend that I know the subject, and then I swing it. I
But you don't
swing
care
it.
either way. You can when you walk away, you're like, I don't give a shit. Like I mean, like and I know
But
that.
that's
Like
but that's
like
the thing is, what's the point for me is I wasted all that effort trying to say something that you don't even appreciate because, hey, True is a fucking idiot. He doesn't know what we're talking
right.
about, right?
It,
But if you tell about, hey, who's better, Deion Sanders or Sean Spring, anybody know Sean Spring or Arenas Williams,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Sean Taylor, when these guys are all quarterbacks, right? And I say, well, I like Deion because he does this, he does that, he does. I can tell you, like, I can sit there and talk to you for like 12 hours without stopping about the nuances and the differences between these guys. These guys play exactly the same position,
Right.
where he came from when he was drafted, the height, the support he gets from his teammates and all that. I can tell you all that. But if you ask me about Andre Agassi and I just don't know. The only thing I can say, hey, he's
How many
better
Grand
because
Slams did he win? Yeah.
he wins more. Like
Yeah.
some basic fact that I'm going to pull out to use that, right?
Right.
Because that because of that, like I say, anyone who give a damn can tell. But if you don't give a damn, then you don't give a damn. Then you say, well, I don't care what he say. Right? So you're just wasting time. What I'm
It
saying
is.
is, we have the ability as human. We all have the ability to feel if somebody is fooling us, and we
Yep.
know, hey, I don't know if I believe him.
So I mean, it really comes down to the choice of you can tell an okay joke to try to appease the masses, or you can tell an amazing joke that's only something a joke that you could tell that maybe only a few people are gonna love, but they're gonna really love it. Like what's more
Mm,
important to you in your life? Like that's really what it comes down to. It's like this thing that we're doing right now is I don't know who's gonna ever enjoy this or not, but I know there's somebody that's gonna really enjoy this and they're gonna really appreciate it. And they're gonna really, really appreciate it. Like we're not trying to share this message for the masses. If anything, we're sharing it for the not masses. Like, I mean, we don't we've made this crystal clear with when we started Clubany. Like, we don't want everybody in Clubany. Like, we don't want people that don't know who they
we
are
only
and
want the one that belongs.
right and this message is to those people and I don't care. You can have whatever you can say, whatever you want to say about what our ideals are and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to not to do. I don't really care. Like, I mean, like unless you're in the crew that's trying to solve this together, like you can an impartial party on the outside saying this will work or won't work. I mean, their insights mean less than shit to me. Like, I mean, and this is the problem with the Jordan Petersons of the world, in my opinion. Like, he tries to be the grown up in the room, the sharing something that everybody will, the truth tellers of the world, right? Like, fuck you. There is no truth in this world. A lot of, like, the only truth is your own personal truth. You either share that with other people or you don't. And that's
Yeah,
up to you.
that's why people see reality is what you're made of it because your reality is what you believe it is.
Right.
If you believe you are suppressed, then you are suppressed. If you believe you are free, then you are free, right?
Exactly.
Because you look at Viktor Frankl. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he's in a concentration camp, and he say, "I'm free because I can take whatever I want," right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
he feels free, and look at him. That's what I'm saying is,
Great point.
people that and there's the people who say, "Well, I'm going to smoke my last cigarettes and I'm out of here." Well,
Right.
because you think that way, and
Yeah.
to me, it's it's so it's so shameful that people are being conditioned to live up to a certain ideals that is not theirs. And this is why we here to say, well, you are individual and you are the one that can be yourself, and being yourself lighten the load. I don't know about you, but for me is regardless of what I do, regardless of how many tasks I put on my plates, I don't feel pressure.
No,
I just don't because I get to when I get to it, what you gonna do?
you're you're
You know what I mean?
you're making me think of. I'm reading the book I'm reading right now is called it's called The Master by it's about Roger Federer. Actually, ironically, it's about
Hmm.
his autobiography, and the key that I've heard thus far, I'm almost three-quarters of the way through it, of why he became one of the best players in the world and the best player that's ever lived. Um, uh, is he was pretty carefree almost all the time. Whatever he even said this, he was like, the moment you get like, so wound up and you're, like, and you have no way to free yourself of that release. He's like, that's when the burnout happens, and that's when people just fall off the cliff. Like he was able to play at a really.
Oh, are you there, Chris? Hey, thank you for joining us again. And we had some technical difficulties, and for some reason, my internet just dropped. So
Hey,
we
when
had to
the
final stretch anyway. So
when the universe you gotta be open
the
to the omens,
omens,
right?
the omens,
Time
right?
it's time it's
Listen to
time
the
it's time to
omen.
call it a night. It's time to call it a night. All
It
right,
is
well
okay.
that
We're way over a lot
yeah,
of
right,
time.
exactly. All right, so that was a fun conversation as always. The question we can leave for everybody is are you holding back from sharing your authentic self with the world around you? I mean, it's a pretty
Mhm.
simple question, and if
Yeah,
you are,
and the key word here is authentic, right?
right.
Because that's that's what you have to offer. That's all you have to offer.
Yep,
So don't be, hey, I'm this self or that self.
be you and share.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
sounds good. See ya.